Let's dive right into today's explainer. Picture this familiar scenario. Your kid has been sick, right? But the fever is finally gone, the medication is all finished, and you can finally just breathe. Well, for millions of parents out there, this is the exact moment the real panic sets in. Because the illness might be defeated, but suddenly you're hit with this massive wave of anxiety about the aftermath of the treatment itself.
You know the feeling. You immediately start wondering, wait, do I need to rush out and buy those expensive supplements to fix their stomach? You've heard the rumors, you've seen the targeted ads, and you're sitting there thinking, oh man, did that medicine just completely wreck my kid's digestion? It's a totally natural question, obviously coming from a place of deep love and care, but it can spiral fast.
And then you scroll social media for, 5 minutes, and you start panicking that the treatment, literally the thing that just cured your child, somehow destroyed their entire immune system. You see these wild posts claiming their natural defenses are totally wiped out, leaving them completely vulnerable to everything. And cue to parent guilt, right? It just creeps right in.
So suddenly, before you even know it, you're asking yourself if you need to buy a full gut cleanse, a detox regimen for a toddler. Well, today in this explainer, we're going to cut right through all that internet anxiety. We're going to break down what actually happens after a course of antibiotics, what we parents get wrong all the time, and what modern medicine truly says about recovery. Because honestly, the truth might completely surprise you. Section 1. The core distinction, viruses versus bacteria. We've got to unpack a fundamental biological misunderstanding that drives so much of this internet panic. So here is the strict biological barrier we're dealing with. On one side, you have viruses. These guys cause your standard runny noses, sore throats, and everyday common colds. And here's the kicker. Antibiotics do absolutely nothing to viruses. Zero. Nada. On the flip side, we have bacteria. Now, bacteria are what antibiotics are actually designed to target and destroy. So what does this mean? It means for the vast majority of normal childhood illnesses, antibiotics are just completely unnecessary. But when a true, serious bacterial infection does hit, we're talking things like pneumonia, strep throat, severe ear infections, or bacterial sinus infections, antibiotics are literally life-saving. I mean, they are absolute modern miracles. But the golden rule we have to remember is that they should only ever be used when truly needed to fight those specific bacterial threats, not just prescribed just in case we're feeling scared. Which brings us to Section 2, Deconstructing the Villain, the Gut Health Myth. Let's look at why antibiotics almost instantly become the internet's favorite punching bag the moment a treatment ends. You look at your kid after they get better, and you might see symptoms like a little diarrhea, maybe a skin rash, changes in appetite, or they're just super wiped out. And what do? We immediately point the finger at the medication. But here is the uncomfortable truth. We completely forget that a major illness, like a bout of pneumonia, puts massive systemic stress on the entire body. And that happens long before a single pill is swallowed. The infection itself is usually the real culprit for all that lingering exhaustion, not just the cure. Now, let's talk about the timeline because it's absolutely crucial. Look, yes, it is biologically true that our intestinal bacteria get a temporary hit from antibiotics, but modern pediatric antibiotic courses are actually so much safer than the harsh stuff from decades ago. Today, they typically only last 5 to 7 days. They're highly targeted, they're brief, and they absolutely do not fundamentally destroy a child's immune system. But try telling that to your social media feed. It literally screams at you that you absolutely must buy probiotics to avoid total immune destruction. Influencers will literally have you believing that if you don't drop $30 on a bottle of special gummies, you are somehow failing as a parent. But the reality of actual medical science? There's simply no universal miracle pill. Here's the real deal. While some studies do show minor benefits, specifically when it comes to reducing diarrhea associated with antibiotics, they aren't some mandatory magic fix. In fact, in a lot of countries around the world, probiotics aren't even routinely prescribed alongside antibiotics at all. Building a healthy, solid foundational recovery routine matters so much more than buying expensive, heavily marketed supplements. Moving on to Section 3, the science of recovery, escaping the internet hype. Let's talk about how you actually go about rebuilding your kid's strength once that fever finally breaks. We get so desperate to rebuild our kids' strength immediately, right? So parents start pushing these fake cures. We serve these heavy, oversized meals, we try to force feed them, or we rush them right back into their normal routine, dragging them to crowded birthday parties or loud indoor play centers the exact second they seem okay. But guys, human biology just doesn't work like that.
Their body literally just fought a war. It needs a minute to rebuild.
After an illness, it's all about the biological basics. The steps to healthy recovery are wonderfully simple: sleep, good hydration, getting some fresh air, and just light, normal movement. And most importantly, giving it time. You don't need all this pressure, and you definitely don't need to force feed them. The body is amazing. It knows exactly how to find its equilibrium if we just step back and get out of its way. Which means we really need to ditch the pharmacy myth. You do not need to turn one simple, totally necessary prescription into an entire pharmacy cabinet of antihistamines, immune boosters, and crazy detox regimens. Recovery after antibiotics is not about repairing a damaged child. It's simply about allowing a completely normal recovery process to happen.
And now, Section 4, the climax, the actual threats. Because while parents are out there obsessing over gut detoxes, almost nobody's talking about the real, massive danger looming right over us. Picture the dynamic in the clinic. Driven by anxiety, feeling helpless, and a very real fear of complications, parents demand action. And doctors, well, they feel that intense pressure. And since nobody wants to miss a potential bacterial threat, they often prescribe antibiotics even when the medical evidence doesn't strictly demand them. It's this whole ecosystem driven entirely by anxiety. And here is exactly why that anxiety is so incredibly dangerous. Think about it. When we use antibiotics for viral infections, or just to feel safe, or when we stop the course early just because the kid looks a bit better, or when parents dig into the back of the medicine cabinet to reuse old prescriptions without even asking a doctor. When we do these things, we are literally forcing bacteria to adapt. We are actively training them to survive our best medicine. The big picture consequence of all this totally understandable parental anxiety is antibiotic resistance. And make no mistake, this is rapidly becoming one of the biggest medical threats in the entire world. The biggest danger isn't that your kid might get a slightly upset stomach today. The real danger is that these incredible, life-saving drugs might actually stop working for humanity tomorrow. So I really want to leave you with this thought to chew on. The next time your child finishes a prescription, or the next time you find yourself in the doctor's office begging for a strong treatment for a runny nose, ask yourself this: are we treating a real bacterial threat, or are we risking humanity's medical future just to cure our own present fear? Thanks so much for exploring this with me. I really hope this explainer gives you some peace of mind and a lot of clarity the next time your little one gets sick.